Hi guys, it's been a very long time since I posted a video, but I'm back. Not with a boat video this time, but with a gun video. So yeah, I finally got something that I've been wanting for a very long time, and my favorite handgun of all times. And it is the most iconic and probably one of the gun that actually shaped history. And of course, I'm talking about the Colt single action army. Yeah, I found one here. So fortunately, here, as in many other countries, when you have a handgun or any weapon that dates from prior to 1900, or I think it's 1898 in some countries like the US, I believe. But those guns are free for the taking. I mean, not free, they don't, they cost a lot of money, but there are no regulations, no specific regulations governing them. So you can buy them as pretty much as easily as you would buy a loaf of bread. Well, I mean, you have to show that you're 18 years old, but that's it. So I found a 3840 4¼ inch barrel, which looks amazing. Here, I'll put the photo right here. And I don't have it right now at this moment because it's all in parts. Because unfortunately, and this is a good lesson, so listen, you guys, don't buy a gun that you haven't seen and handled personally. I got it on the internet. The seller told me that everything was just fine, checked it out and it was perfect. And within 5 seconds on handling it, I knew there was a problem, at least one problem, and actually it's more than one. And I'm going to show you that. What the biggest problem is the hammer half-cock notch has been damaged and was kind of repaired, but half-assed repaired. Excuse my French. And the timing was all wrong. So I have a video of this. I'll show you. You'll understand exactly what I mean. There we go. And you can see the bolt here. I'll try to make sure you can see it, and I'll slowly pull the hammer. First safety notch. The bolt disappears. Half cock, but you see it's not really half cock, it's very early. The bolt just came out against the cylinder. Turn it. Full cock, but it's not locked. Still. There we go. Now if I do it a little bit faster, it does lock properly. There's a little bit of movement here, but not, I don't know if that's much or not. No handshake, well, a little bit. And you actually hear 5 clicks. This revolver, by the way, was built in 1897, so it's made of mild steel. It's not the iron frame as before, so it's a little bit more solid, more rugged, I say, stronger. Although it's not rated for smokeless powder, so I will be only using black powder in it. But back to the timing. I ordered and got some parts from Brownells. I got a hand and a trigger. I still have to order a bolt. And the seller told me that he would send me a repaired hammer, which is a hammer, of course, that's been broken, repaired. And he asked me to send him my hammer in exchange, but of course I'm not going to do that until I see the repaired one, because I want to make sure everything is going to be fine. Now, the timing of such a revolver is not an easy thing to do. The mechanism is very simple, but you have to time everything properly, and there has to be some operations going on at certain times, and the parts must all work together, so it's not easy. I'd like to thank, by the way, the Colt forum for helping me out with this, and especially Jim Martin, one of the best gunsmiths for Colt single action armies. And you can actually send him your gun if you need to have it fixed, because I would have done so if, did I not live in France. I'm just too worried about shipping it and not getting it back. Not because of Jim Martin, of course, but because of the customs. I'm not sure those guys are really aware of the laws and all the details of the regulations about these antiques. So I'm not going to take the risk sending it out and not getting it back. So I decided to do it myself. It was highly suggested that I get this book, which is really something you need if you want to work on your revolver. So I'm going to be looking at this and working on the parts and doing the timing. And I'll show you every single step of the way. So hopefully I'm not going to make any mistakes, because I only have one set of parts and that's it. The parts you have to set up for the Colt single action army are the bolt, the trigger and the hand. The first step is to adjust the width of the bolt. Now the notches in the cylinder are 0.1535 and the hand as provided by Smith Enterprise is 0.158, so you don't have much to remove here. And we're going to start on this side here, polish it. Now the manual calls for 320 grit. I have 240, 320, 500 and 1000, but I don't want to remove too much metal, so I'm going to go very slowly. Then we'll adjust the other side. You want the hand to fit the narrowest slot on the cylinder. You need a perfectly flat surface to work on, so I'm going to use this piece of aluminum. I'll start with 240 sandpaper, just to take off the packerizing of the bolt. I want to do various motions, I don't want to go only in one direction. And I will measure the part very often. You can see the packerizing is going away. I'm trying to maintain an equal pressure on the entire bolt. The width was 0.158 and it's already 0.1575, so it's going pretty quickly. I have to be really careful. I'm going to switch to 320 grit now, just for a few passes. Looking good. Now 500. As I use the finer grits, it seems that barely any metal gets removed at all. But the finish is getting a nice mirror surface. I'm going to switch to 1000 now. I switched to wet sanding here. I went from 0.158 to 0.1565. Very nice, and the surface is nice and shiny. What I want to do is not to rely too much on measurements, but try the bolt inside the notches every so often. And here it clearly is still too wide. Well, I did the other side and I seem to have done pretty well, because I'm getting a very nice fit, very snug on all the chambers, no play whatsoever. And that's the advantage of using sandpaper, because it's very slow. Painstakingly slow, but you can remove very little metal at a time. Oh, this one barely. Yeah, it does fit. I have to make sure it goes all the way down. None are slipping off, so it should be alright. Oh, what about this one? Yeah, just fits in, not slipping. This is the smallest one, and it's not slipping off, so it's a very tight fit, but it's not moving. The next step will probably be working on the bolt face, and that's not going to be easy because there is a 10-degree angle on it. But the bolt has to go down the notches, and it has to touch everywhere, basically inside the notches. So I'm going to use a black marker on the bottom, mount the cylinder in the frame, and snap it and see where the ink gets deposed and work on that. I had a long conversation with Jim Martin, and he taught me quite a few interesting things. It appears that I didn't have to work on the whole side of my bolt. I should have only worked on the head of the bolt, basically the end that goes into the notches on the cylinder, because the width is needed on the tines, and the tines are those two little legs at the end of the bolt. Fortunately, I haven't damaged my bolt and I can use it without any problem. One thing that Jim insisted on is that I have to wait to do the timing of the bolt tine. First, I have to do the hand and the primary and secondary hand, because those can affect the timing of the bolt, believe it or not. I also will have to work on the bolt, how's that called again? The step at the very end of the bolt head that will rest on the frame, and that has to be filed a bit so that the bolt goes deep enough into the notches. Now Jim told me that I was going to need a file, and fortunately we have Brownells here, brownells.farb, believe it or not. It's just the same site, but inflated prices, because of course we have to pay VAT, value added tax, and that's 20%. Nothing like Florida, where I used to live, and it was 7%. But at least I can get the proper file, which I will put right down here on the screen, so that you can see which model to get if you want to try the same thing. Now I have also learned that when you get a replacement bolt, you have to be very careful where you get it from, and not to get an Italian bolt like Uberti or Pieta. And here are the photos I received from Jim Martin that show the difference between the two. I just noticed that the bolt isn't coming through the window, and it's sitting here in the front, so I'm going to have to sand that down a little bit, just enough to let it go through. That only took 3 or 4 passes, and now the bolt is dropping properly. I want to make sure the bolt drops in every cylinder notch now, so I just turn the cylinder and put a little bit of pressure with a pencil, and there we go. Okay, and it does lock properly on all chambers, so I must have done something right. The bolt isn't disappearing all the way, even if I press on it. So I will have to find out what prevents this. I want to check the mating surface of the bolt head into the notches, so I'm going to put some black marker here on the face of the bolt and lock the cylinder and see if I can notice some ink inside the notches. Well, none of them have any ink in it, so maybe the bolt doesn't go all the way to the bottom, but it does lock properly and positively, so Jim Martin told me I could do this later, so maybe I'll do that, but I would like to know why it's not, I don't see any ink at all. Maybe it's the marker that's just isn't good for that kind of stuff. Next I'm going to polish the side of the hand here, but just enough to take off the parkerizing and no more than that. I don't want to remove any metal right now, but I do want the hand to slide nicely into the frame. I don't have to do the other side because there is a recess. This part is recessed here, there's a shoulder, so it doesn't actually touch the frame. You can see it right here, there we go. What I do need to smooth out is this angle here, because it does get stuck on the frame and the bolt doesn't come back. And now the hand comes and goes, deploys and retracts without resistance. Very good. The next step is to work on the top of the hand, which will dictate when the bolt does actually retract from the cylinder. Now I just aligned one notch here in the window. What happens is that if I press on the hammer, I actually turn the cylinder back a little bit, which definitely shows that the hand is too long. The top of the hand is too long. I was tempted to work on the hand inside the frame, you know, just with the file here, but I know that's not going to end well, so I'll just do it in my little vise. When the bolt is engaged, I can actually slide a thin strip of paper under the bolt stop. So that might be a little bit too much spacing here. See, no trouble. And maybe I should have worked on the bolt surface, but I guess that will be a question for Jim Martin maybe, or any of you guys on the Colt forum. I just had a good look at the book and read that you have to make a top hand ratchet clearance bevel right here, so I'm going to do that next. It should be right here on this side. Now I have a nice bevel on this and I barely broke the other side. Now I'm going to dull the front sharp edge of the lower hand right here. And let's not forget to bevel the top of the left tin here for the hammer cam return. If I place the notch exactly in the window where the bolt can engage it, and I cock the hammer, full cock down to the stop, it just goes beyond the notch, and that I think is because the second hand is too long. Now if I do the same thing and I move the hammer back until the cylinder rotates just a little bit, I get about right here, and that's this position here, so about the well, maybe slightly beyond the safety notch, it's hard to tell. So maybe the top hand is at the right length, I'm not sure. Again here the notch is right inside the frame window, and I will cock the hammer. Oh, that was fast. But we went beyond the notch. Now I mounted the bolt in, and I'll show it the best I can here on the inside. When I try to cock the hammer, it does lift the bolt a bit, but it's very hard, and actually I can't, it's stuck here. So it's simply not, well, I see it's being blocked by the tin here, and it's just not, maybe I don't have enough of a bevel. The book is very thorough, but it's not always easy to follow, so thanks to Jim Martin, I finally understand what's going on. And I put in the hammer, the hand, of course the bolt and the spring here. So right now the cylinder is locked, and if I try to cock the hammer, it just doesn't work, it gets stuck. And I didn't understand at first what was going on. I thought that, you know, the cam of the hammer was pressing on the tine, but something wasn't quite working, something was stuck somewhere. And that's not it. Actually, of course, it is because the primary hand, the top of the hand, is too long. The hammer cam, doesn't get to press on the tine, so it can't unlock the cylinder. And because, of course, the top of the hand is pressing on the ratchet, well, it gets stuck. So my next step is to shorten the top hand, and that's what I'm going to do right now. Fortunately, I only have to take off the hammer for this operation, but I suspect I will have to do it quite a few times, because I really want to remove as little metal at a time as possible. Jim told me to keep the same angle here as the way the hand is cut out of the box. So I will do that, and later just to basically take off the edge here because it will be quite sharp. Since I want to go slow, I will simply use 320 sandpaper, and I will be careful to respect the angle that's already there. I also try to keep the hand as straight as possible, and it seems to be working pretty well here. Still too long. Here's a quick view of the revolver functioning without the cylinder. The bolt retracts and clicks back in. You can see the hand coming out. So I guess it looks like it's quite a bit shorter than before, I mean the top of the hand, but not enough, I guess, because the cylinder is still not rotating, so I will have to sand it a little more. I have to say I'm getting a little worried because this is going to get pretty short, and I hope I'm not gonna mess up this hand. Alright, I just got off the phone with Jim Martin, and I had to show him a problem that I have here. I finally got it to work, well, almost. If I cock the hammer, the cylinder starts to turn, and then it stops. And I can actually slide a piece of paper here between the frame, actually between the bolt and the cylinder, so I know it's cleared, the bolt has cleared the notch. I can't cock it any further. Now if I push a little bit with my finger, boom, it turns. And then the bolt actually drops right before it locks. So it drops right here at the entrance of the, forgot how that's called again, of the, well, I don't remember. Someone will tell me. Jim told me, but I forgot. So it's at the limit of not being, you know, timed, basically. So I won't have to touch the left tine because it's already, well, almost too short. And I don't have to touch anything else for the timing, but the problem is I have to make sure that when I cock the hammer, I can pass this little hurdle here and it actually finish, you know, cocking. Otherwise it works fine. So let me show you the hand. Okay, so as you can see, it's extremely short. I mean, it's really, there isn't much left of the primary hand here, and I had to do that. Otherwise the bolt wouldn't clear. So it's very, very short. If I hold the hand like this, I have to break the corner here. Just a little bit. And I should be very careful not to reduce the height of the secondary hand here. So I should only take off, well, get the corner here lowered a bit so that it will clear and finish cocking the gun. And I'm going to do that with the file. Alright, so the first passes didn't do it. What Jim told me to do is to hold the hammer like this and tap a bit on it to leave a mark on the hand, so not too hard. Oh, actually I just passed it, so, but I will probably have a mark on the hand now and I will look at it. Well, I don't really see a mark, but I'm going to drop that corner a little bit more, you know, just a tad. Alright, we'll see if that's enough. I hope so, because I really don't want to take too much metal out of this hand, because there won't be anything left. So, let's see. Cylinder is locked. I'll just put the hammer screw in here and we'll see if this works. Still not quite working. Okay, now I see the mark. Okay, now if I tap lightly on the hammer, it does cock the gun to the end, so I'll just have maybe to do it a few times. Ah, there we go. Ah, it worked. Yep. Oh, some chambers are a little harder than others. Okay, now I'm going to look, see if I see another mark. Ah, darn. It's a little bit on the front here, so that scares me, because I'm not supposed to take anything off the front. So I'll just have to give it like a very, very slight, you know, a little touch here there, but not, I can't do much, otherwise I'm going to run into trouble. I hope I didn't take out too much, and I'm just going to deburr it with 500 grit sandpaper here. I've already taken out quite a bit here, and that's more than I'm comfortable with. Well, we'll see. All right, moment of truth. Ah, almost. Okay, well, that's... I feel a little resistance, but I guess it's going to wear out. I sure don't want to take any more metal than I have to. And it sure is locked. Oh, not here. Oh, down. I smell trouble. Locked. Not locked. Not locked. Guys, I think this hand is done for. The gun locks on 2 chambers, and that is it. 2 out of 6. On the other chambers, the hammer doesn't quite go back all the way, and when I rotate, push with my finger, then it moves back. Push, hammer goes back, but it doesn't, for some reason it doesn't move all the way back on some chambers. Okay, one last demonstration, just to make sure. Watch the hammer. I'm keeping tension on it. Goes back. What's weird is that when I push on the cylinder, the hammer goes back. I don't know what to do. Probably have to order a new hand, but I don't know what causes this. I have no idea. Ah, big disappointment. Big disappointment. Hope there is a way to fix this, but I kind of doubt it. I think I'd have to get a new hand. And here's the new hand from Peacemaker Specialists in California. The other one on the left, which I messed up, was from Brownells and supposedly made by Smith Enterprises. The new one, I'm not sure. It seems to be beefier than the other one, wider, so I don't know. Well, let's get to work. And the first hurdle here is that the hand is hitting the top of the frame, and I'm thinking maybe it is because it's too wide. I'm not quite sure about that because, well, the frame has a little spike here. It's not really a spike, but you can see that it should be fitting in here, and it doesn't, so maybe that's why it's not moving forward and up. So I'm going to take some metal out of the hand here on the top so that it slides right through. I think I'm going to just break the edge here slightly, just a little bit, and maybe smooth out the top here. I'm smoothing out the top of the hand here just slightly so that it doesn't catch on the frame. Let's do 500 grits now. And you know, every time I mess up a hand, it's more than $100 for me, so that's a lot of money, and I really don't want to mess up this one. Nice and shiny. I also smoothed out the edge right here on the side. And now it works fine. It's still a little stiff on the return, but that's gonna smooth out anyway. So I'll try with the cylinder in it, see if I can make the cylinder turn. Alright, so look at this, guys. I'm going to bring a notch here. Actually, it is in the frame window. And it seems that I'm going slightly over, just a little bit. And that's great because it means my hand isn't too short. I'll probably just have to work a little bit on the second hand, but this seems to function properly. So, and when I put the bolt in with the bolt spring, it seems like just like before, I can cock the hammer now. So probably I'll have to do the same thing and take a little bit out of the top hand as well. Otherwise, the bolt doesn't disengage. I keep working on the hand, but it's just not working yet, and I'm getting into the same situation where the top hand is going to be very short now. I put some black marker there, and if it focuses, you might see that there is a little tiny spot there that is hitting right in the middle on the edge. Here, right on the edge. So I've gotten to a point where I can actually cock the gun, but something is, it's not working exactly on every single chamber, and there is a little bit of resistance here, just about here, and I can pull, it doesn't work, I have to help it with my fingers. Bolt drops, it locks, that's fine. And that's on the return here. But I don't know what does this because, oh, see, it skipped. Skip this one. It's fine there, but it does skip some time at this point here. And I don't know why. I'm suspecting, I don't think it's the hand on the frame. I think it's something to do with the cylinder and the ratchet, and I might just have destroyed a second hand, another $120. Well, I don't know what to do. Another failure. Sometimes the cylinder doesn't even turn, and it's just definitely not working, and I have no idea. I know probably the top hand is too short, but if I didn't shorten it like that, it would bind, so that just... It even seems to unlock in some places, which it wasn't doing before. I really don't know what to do, guys. I'm gonna have to ask some help or something, because this is just not working. If I wasn't depressed before, guys, I'm not very far now. And second try, second hand, and another failure, and $240 down the drain total. So very depressing, and it's really money that I couldn't spend. But I've spent so much time with this revolver and money that it feels like a family heirloom now, and I have to make it work, and I really want to make it work. I'm not even quite sure what the problem is. If you look at the two hands here, you can see that they ended up being very short, and too short because you know, the cylinder wouldn't rotate sometimes. So I don't know why it was binding in the first place, and why the you know, it wouldn't unlock. And it did finally unlock when the hand got too short, but you know, then it wasn't working anymore. So I suspect that maybe it has to do with the ratchet release bevel on the right side. Maybe I didn't cut that deep enough. I don't know, and I believe now that it's the kind of skill that you really can't learn out of a video, a book, or even on the phone with an expert like I did, Jim Martin. and I'm not quite sure what to do. The original hand that was in the revolver looks really funny. If you look at it now here, you can see that it's beveled at the end on all sides. And I don't know why that is. And it did rotate the cylinder correctly, just the timing was wrong. So, and I don't think it was even as short as my two hands were. Unfortunately, I don't have the original hand anymore, but I'm not quite sure what to do. I even messed up my bolt a bit because I resurfaced the bolt face, hoping that it would go a little bit deeper into the notches, so that the tines of the bolt would contact the hammer cam a little bit sooner, so that the unlocking would happen sooner, the cylinder would turn a little bit sooner, and I wouldn't have to shorten the top of the hand so much. But that didn't work out. Now I have 2 or 3 chambers that I can unlock with a slight finger pressure, so I think I can fix that fairly easily. But the problem is that I don't have a hand anymore again, and I don't think I can find an expert somewhere around here in France or in Europe actually. And I might be wrong. If someone knows of one in Europe, please let me know, because I really need some help now. Actually, Ken Baumgartner, another expert, told me that I should try to find a first generation hand that has been fitted into of course, a first generation revolver that works, and that I could try it into my revolver, and that has a good chance, presumably, to work that way. Well, I'm not going to give up just yet, but really, that's a tough one. And it's been quite a challenge, especially financially. But I figure I'm paying for an education. I think I figured out what the problem is. But before we get to that, I got some Dykem blue. Whoop. Because I'm going to need this for a specific job, and I'll show you right away. I noticed, and I'm not the only one, that for the bolt to retract, the hammer has to go quite a certain distance here. What I believe is happening is that the bolt here is too tall, so I would have to reduce the height of the bolt by working on this surface here. But I have to make sure that the shape of the bolt head matches the shape of the notches. And this is where the Dykem blue comes in. I'm going to put some of the Dykem blue inside the notch here with a Q-tip and mount it into the revolver, and then press on the bolt and make an imprint, so to speak, and I'll see where the ink gets deposited on this bolt head, and that I would have to file until the bolt head shape matches the notches perfectly. And of course I would have to reduce the height so that the hammer cam makes contact with this part soon enough and moves the bolt immediately when the hammer is cocked. I've never used this stuff, but it sure has a strong smell. I hope it doesn't dry too fast. Okay, here we go. Ooh, that's plenty. Plenty. So I press quite a bit on it, make a good imprint, and that should do it. Alright, that's quite revealing and it works really well. This corner here didn't get any ink, so I have to file this part here. And I have to make sure I respect the 10-degree angle on this bolt head here because it's not flat. So I'll make sure this is exactly flat on the sandpaper here. Here we go. I don't want to go too fast, so I think this is going to take quite some time. I think my fingers are going to be totally blue by the end of the night. Interesting. Works so much better than black marker. Well, if it would focus, of course, but it's not going to. You can see. The goal here, of course, is that this part ends up being blue everywhere. Press hard on it. Oh, no blue. Well, that's weird. Did I put it in the correct slot? Let's try it again. Okay, that's the correct one. Press hard. No blue. Well, that means it's not touching the bottom of the notch, which means that probably this part here, the ledge here, is not touching the frame, or actually is touching the frame. So the bolt doesn't go deep enough. So I just have to work on this ledge here and trim it a little bit, file it just a tad, so that the bolt goes deeper. You know what, I'm gonna put some Dykem blue here on the frame and see if it will be deposited on the ledge. Let's put the bolt into a notch. There we go. Press, and we'll see. And I don't see any blue, that's weird. I still have to go about to here so that I feel the bolt moving on my thumb. It should start moving right away. So the bolt definitely doesn't go deep enough, but now it's not getting any blue, and I don't know why that is. This little piece of paper here can actually slide under the bolt. I'm going to put some blue on both sides of the bolt window, just to see if it's maybe touching somewhere else. Okay, the bolt is in the notch. I'm pressing on it, it's locked. So let's see if any blue got on the bolt. Well, I don't see any on this side. There's a tiny spot here, and maybe that's enough. I'm going to file this part here a little bit. I don't think it can do any harm. Or maybe the width of the bolt. That's an idea. That's an interesting one, actually. Okay, it seems that I might have been wrong, because if I put the piece of paper here under the bolt ledge, the paper gets stuck. So I think I can file it. I'm going to use a square file here, but I can't hold the camera and do it at the same time, so sorry about that. Okay, so I took a bit of metal here off the ledge, and I hope that's not too much. I filed a little bit on the other side as well, but just barely. Press. Bingo! Back in the saddle again. I think it's a little closer now. I feel it move about, yep, just here. So that's closer than before. I just have to go a little bit further. Okay, the bolt is up. I'm pressing on it with my pinky finger, and it's locked, but still the hammer can go that far. So I'm not sure. Here it is again. I'm locked here, pushing on the bolt, and the hammer cam doesn't touch the tines, and I can still move the hammer quite a bit. So what do I do, guys? Do I keep on going? Do I shorten the height of the bolt a little more so that it rises a little sooner? Because that, of course, will prevent me from having a hand that's too short, and that's the goal. But I'm not sure if this is enough. I'll put it on the side here so you can see it, just here. Maybe from the top, if I can put something under it. Here. And I can feel it. That's about as far as it will go. And after that, it starts lifting the bolt, or retracting the bolt. And I think that's too far. I think it should be probably here. So is my bolt still too tall? I really would like to know before I keep going. So, hey, I look like a schoolboy again, full of ink. Well, it has been about 1.5 years since I've worked on my single action army. I got a bit discouraged after my 2 failed attempts. And I moved from the north of France to the south of France, so, I kind of put it aside, but I certainly didn't give up on it, and I'm getting back to it now with my 3rd attempt, trying to fix the timing. I'm pretty sure I've identified the problem. Here you see the bolt sticking out, and if I press on it with my pinky finger here, I can see that the hammer comes back about maybe 1/8 of an inch, and that's when the bolt pickup starts.
Now if I pull on the hammer any further, I can feel the bolt moving under my finger. And that's just about where it should start. However, once I put the cylinder in and I lock it, so I'll press on the bolt with my pinky finger once again. Oop, and here it's locked. Now the hammer can go that far until the bolt pickup happens, and that's way too far, which means of course only one thing, that the bolt is too tall, the bolt head is too tall, and that's why I had to file the top of my hand so much to unlock the cylinder. So all I have to do before I start on the hand is to reduce the height of the head of the bolt here. This way I won't have to shorten the hand so much. Once again, I need a very flat surface, so I'm going to use this glass, the edge here, and I have to respect the 10-degree angle on the bolt. Well, I have quite a bit to remove here, but I'm still going to do it pretty slow. I'll worry about the shape of the head of the bolt later when I get closer to the measurement I want. I think you've seen enough sanding for one video, so I'm going to spare you this and get to the final result for this bolt. I am using the Dykem blue stuff here that I put at the bottom of the notches, and here's what I get. You can see there is a bit of ink on the right side here, and so that's what I have to file, basically, to sand. I think I almost got it. I'm gonna lock the cylinder here. Turns. It goes a little too far. However, it unlocks and it does work. Awesome. The one problem I noticed is that there is one chamber, and I marked it, maybe more than one. The notch is very shallow, and maybe the bolt face isn't exactly shaped to that notch, and it does have a tendency to slip a little bit, so I'm going to have to really check that out. I checked the bolt drop position, and it drops exactly in the lead-in to the notch, so the length of the tines are perfect. I just have to prevent the cylinder from rotating too far when I pull the hammer back. Otherwise, the timing now seems to be good. The next step is to work on the bottom of the hand here to make it a bit shorter so that the cylinder doesn't rotate too far. You can see here my two previous failed attempts, and you can see that the top of the hand is quite a bit shorter than my last one. I'll have to be careful not to make it too short, of course, and the next step will be then to set the trigger. And I'll probably have to shorten it a bit just here at the tip. It took a little bit of time, but now the cylinder stops exactly with the notch in the frame window. Now I just have to shorten the trigger just enough so that it engages the full cock notch on the hammer. I will sand it flat first, and later I'll put a slight angle here to have a positive engagement on the notch. And I think I got it right. I think I did. Yes, finally. And here's the result, guys. Now the spring is very stiff, it's not smooth at all, but it certainly works. I'm very happy about this. I still have one little problem, is that on half cock the chambers don't come back far enough, meaning that the ejection rod just bumps on the cylinder because it's not going far counterclockwise far enough, and that might have to do with some kind of ratchet clearance with the hand. Maybe guys could let me know why that is. Also, it seems to be locking pretty nicely on full cock, but when the hammer is down it does move and I can unlock it very easily. That might have to do with the difference in pressure from the spring, but otherwise I think it's good to go.
So it took long enough, but finally, it's not 100%, but it is functional. I believe so. This was my first time doing this, and I certainly learned a lot. I wasted 2 hands, and well, that did cost me some money. But on the other hand, well, if I had given it to someone else to do, I wouldn't have learned so much, because now I really understand how the whole piece works. And that was the advantage of doing it myself. Of course, it probably, I'm sure, actually I'm certain, it would have been done much better by a professional. And I guess I'm not totally finished with it, but I guess I reached the point where I can call it a success. Well, enough of a success anyway.
All right guys, it's pretty hot today. I'm pretty worried about this one because it's the first time I'm going to shoot this revolver, and I don't know if it's going to blow up or not. But first shot, we'll see.
Skip one. You know what? I'll just put one in there for now. Whoops.
Amazing, that power is amazing. 3840 black powder, it kicks hard.
Well guys, I'm so glad it turned out really good. Really impressed by the 3840. You know, I thought, well, you know, it's not a 45 Colt, it's not going to be, it's not going to kick that hard. And I'm not talking about recoil, but the power. It's really impressive, really. And on the video, of course, you can't really tell, but you know, when you have that big black powder cartridge going off, it's impressive, and you get the smoke on top of it, which is pretty nice. I like it. So ballistically, it's pretty much the equivalent of the modern 40 Smith & Wesson. So it's not it's no sloth, you know. It's a very pretty powerful cartridge, and I'm glad the revolver works, because I spent so much time, money, and efforts on it that would have been very disappointing. But I am very happy about it, and everything turned out really good. So I would like to thank again Jim Martin for his advice, Ken Baumgartner, and all the people on the Colt forum for their help, because without these guys I wouldn't have been able to fix it, basically, and I did so, and now I have a working piece of history that came back to life, and that's what matters, right? Keep them working, keep them shooting. So that's it. I'm going to clean it now and oil it, put it away, and I'll probably won't use it much at all, but I know it works. I'm probably going to work a bit on the trigger because it's really hard, and but hey, everything works, and it's awesome. Thanks again, guys. Have a good one.